1857, London, 2 a.m. Rain. A man stands at the doorway of his mansion. He is gazing into the pitch-black street, watching the gas lights flicker in the damp mist. He brought no umbrella. He takes one step forward, then another, and he never looks back. He has no idea where he is going. He only knows one thing. If he stays in that bed for one more minute, if he stares at that ceiling for one more second, he will come apart at the seams. Have you ever felt that? It's that specific kind of nighttime anxiety. You are exhausted. Your body feels like lead. But your brain is somewhere else entirely. Replaying a conversation from 3 years ago. Rehearsing a disaster that hasn't happened. This is what we often call insomnia or overthinking at night. But over a century ago, the most famous writer in the world, Charles Dickens, lived this every single night. He was a ghost running from his own mind. In today's episode of PatternNotes, we are going to deconstruct the Dickens Protocol. We will dive deep into the modern neuroscience of sleep, specifically why your brain does this to you. And I will share 3 specific pathways to help you finally silence that 2 a.m. voice. These are not simple sleep tips. They are ways to give your mind the resolution it's been searching for all day. By 1857, Charles Dickens had reached the summit of human success. He was 45. He was wealthy beyond imagination. His books were household names. Even Queen Victoria was his reader. And yet, the man who wrote about the warmth of Christmas and the joy of family was secretly drowning. Dickens was a man of extreme order. His bedroom was a sanctuary of obsession. The bed had to face due north. He carried a compass everywhere to ensure it. He had to lie in the exact center of the mattress, equidistant from each edge. He believed these rituals would grant him peace. They did not. Because the problem was not the bed. The problem was what he was carrying into it. At this time, Dickens was hiding a profound secret. He had fallen in love with an 18-year-old actress named Ellen Ternan. He wanted to leave his wife of 20 years. But he was terrified of the scandal. He was terrified of what his 10 children would think. He was terrified of losing the public image he had spent a lifetime building. So during the day, he smiled. He performed. He wrote. But at night, the mask came off. And his brain did what brains do when you leave them unattended with unresolved emotions. It worked. Relentlessly. Without mercy. Dickens wrote in his journal, "I cannot get rid of the ghost that haunts me, unless I can lose myself in the crowd." So he walked. Night after night, Dickens would leave his house at 2 in the morning and walk until the city began to wake. He wasn't walking for health. He was trying to outrun the machine inside his skull. On one night in October, he walked from the center of London all the way to his country house in Rochester. That is 50 kilometers, nearly 31 miles. In the dark, in the rain, alone. Imagine him. A world-famous man, soaked to the bone, his coat ruined, his legs burning, moving through the silent English countryside. He arrived as dawn was breaking. He was physically shattered. And for the first time in weeks, he slept. Dickens didn't know the science behind it. He just knew that moving his body was the only way to quiet his mind. But he had accidentally stumbled into a biological mechanism that neuroscientists are only now beginning to understand. In 2017, neuroscientist Matthew Walker published his landmark book, Why We Sleep. In it, he describes a process called overnight therapy. During REM sleep, the deep dreaming phase, your brain does something miraculous. It acts like a master film editor. It takes the raw, painful footage of your day and recuts it. It processes the emotion, but strips away the stress hormones like noradrenaline. This is why, after a good night's sleep, something that felt like a catastrophe at 2 a.m. feels manageable at 8 a.m. Your brain didn't change the event, it processed the feeling around the event. But here is the vital insight for those of us who struggle with overthinking. Walker found that this therapy can only happen if you actually reach REM sleep. And you cannot reach REM sleep if your brain is still holding on to active, unacknowledged emotional material. If you are avoiding the truth during the day, your brain will stay awake at night, trying to force you to look at it. It is not trying to torture you, it is trying to help you. It is a biological alarm clock that won't stop until you acknowledge the fire. So, how do we give our brain what it is actually asking for? We can't all walk 50 kilometers, but we can use these 3 pathways. Pathway 1. The transfer. Research by Michael Scullin at Baylor University showed that the simple act of writing a to-do list of unfinished tasks before bed helps you fall asleep 37% faster. Why? Because the brain is a survival machine. It is terrified of forgetting. When you write it down, you give the brain a receipt. You tell it, recorded. You can let go now. Pathway 2. Naming the ghost. Go deeper than the surface worry. Don't ask why you are stressed about an email. Ask, what am I avoiding? The moment you name the real ghost, I am avoiding a conversation with my partner, the brain stops searching. It doesn't need you to solve it tonight. It just needs you to stop lying to it. Pathway 3. The I hear you protocol. When the thoughts come, don't reach for your phone. Don't turn on the light. Instead, turn inward and say, quietly, I hear you. Your nervous system is like a child screaming for attention. The more you ignore it, the louder it screams. The moment you acknowledge it, the urgency drops. There is a question we often forget to ask when we are staring at the ceiling, paralyzed by our own thoughts. What if the night is not your enemy? In our modern world, we are obsessed with daylight. We are told that productivity is the only measure of a life well lived. We are expected to be on from the moment the sun rises until the moment we close our eyes. The daylight is loud, it is demanding, it is performative, but the 2 a.m. voice, that ghost that Dickens ran from and eventually learned to walk with, is the only part of you that refuses to be silenced by the noise of the day. Think about it. Why does your brain wait until now to remind you of that conversation? Why does it wait until the house is silent to show you the truth about your career, your relationships, or your fears? It's because the night is a sanctuary of honesty. When the world stops asking you to be productive, your soul finally has the room to be heard. The 2 a.m. window is a biological and psychological liminal space, a doorway between who you are forced to be and who you actually are. Dickens realized this. He stopped seeing his insomnia as a curse and started seeing it as a superpower of observation. He called himself the uncommercial traveler, a man who saw the city not for its commerce or its utility, but for its hidden patterns. He saw the way the shadows fell on the Thames. He heard the whispers of the desperate and the dreamers that the daylight ignored. If you are awake right now, it's not because you are broken, it's because you are paying attention. Your brain is not malfunctioning. It is trying to integrate the parts of your life that you've been too busy to process. It is a gift of clarity, wrapped in the uncomfortable packaging of anxiety. The 3 pathways we discussed, the transfer, naming the ghost, and I hear you, are not just hacks to get back to sleep. They are tools to help you honor the night. When you write down your worries, you aren't just clearing your head, you are acknowledging your own burdens. When you name the truth, you aren't just stopping the thoughts, you are meeting yourself for the first time in 16 hours. The goal isn't to kill the ghost. The goal is to invite the ghost to sit down, have a conversation, and realize that it's actually been on your side all along. So, the next time you find yourself wide awake in the blue light of the moon, don't reach for the distraction of the screen. Take a breath. Listen to the silence. Dickens found his greatest stories in the dark. What if your greatest realizations are waiting for you right here, in the quietest hour of the night? Charles Dickens eventually turned his insomnia into art. He wrote The Uncommercial Traveler, describing the true face of London that only appears when no one is watching. He realized his restless mind wasn't his enemy. It was a guide, taking him to places the daylight wouldn't allow him to see. Tonight, when the ceiling knows your face, don't run. Write it down, name the truth, and say, I hear you. We are going home now. Small patterns, quietly noticed. Thank you for spending a little time here today. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself.